What does it mean to own something? A piece of land, a home, an idea. It's a concept so fundamental to our lives, we rarely stop to question it. But the story of ownership isn't written in stone. It's written on clay tablets, papyrus scrolls, and digital ledgers. This is the unseen history of how we came to prove what is ours. A story that built the world we know today. Our story begins over 4,000 years ago in Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization. Here, among the fertile plains, the first cities rose, and with them a new problem: how to manage land, trade, and taxes. The solution was revolutionary. Writing scribes used reeds to press marks into wet clay, creating the world's first deeds. These weren't just records. They were legally binding contracts, detailing property lines, sales, and inheritance, witnessed and sealed. In ancient Egypt, ownership was intrinsically linked to the gods and the pharaoh. The annual flooding of the Nile, which fertilized the land, also washed away boundary markers. This forced the Egyptians to become master surveyors and meticulous. Every plot of land was measured and recorded for taxation. This act of documentation was more than bureaucracy. It was a way of imposing order on a chaotic world, a principle that defined their entire civilization. But it was the Romans who turned property documentation into an instrument of empire. They developed a sophisticated system of land registration known as centuriation, dividing vast territories into uniform grids. They created detailed public registries, or tabulae, that documented ownership with unprecedented precision. For the first time, a citizen in a far-flung province could have their ownership rights recorded and protected by a central authority. This system not only facilitated trade and taxation, but also projected Roman power and ideology across the known world. It was a declaration that the land, and everything on it, was part of a single, ordered system. After Rome's fall, this centralized system crumbled. In medieval Europe, ownership became a complex web of personal loyalties and obligations. The king owned all the land, granting control to lords in exchange for military service. These lords then allowed peasants to work the land in exchange for labor and a share of the harvest. Records were not public, but were private charters and deeds, often held by the church or nobility. Ownership wasn't an absolute right, but a conditional privilege, a system that created deep social hierarchies and tied people to the land for generations. Proving ownership meant navigating a maze of inherited rights and sworn allegiance. The dawn of the modern era brought a radical shift. Thinkers of the Enlightenment championed the idea of individual rights, including the right to own property. In the newly formed United States, this philosophy was put into practice on a massive scale. The government established public land offices, creating a standardized system for recording deeds that was accessible to ordinary citizens. The title deed became the ultimate proof of ownership, a clear, legally transferable document. This system democratized land ownership and fueled westward expansion, defining the American dream. It cemented the idea that an individual's claim to property was a fundamental right, protected by law. Today, we are on the cusp of another revolution. For centuries, property records have been vulnerable to fraud, loss, and destruction. But now, digital technology is changing everything. Countries are digitizing their land registries, making records more secure and accessible than ever before. And on the horizon is blockchain, a decentralized, immutable ledger that could one day make property titles completely transparent and tamper-proof. From a simple mark on a clay tablet to a cryptographic signature on a global network, the way we document ownership continues to evolve, but the fundamental need remains the same: to create a shared, trusted record of what is ours. It is a story of trust, order, and the enduring human quest to make our mark on the world.